sex guy did. Chester was still getting used to the open sexuality thing, Lulu observed, when she caught her landlady's disapproving gape at her bare legs, accentuated by her bright purple hot pants. The mature woman shook her head at Lulu's skimpy attire and made a tisk-tisk noise with her tongue before resuming the chore of weeding her flower bed. "Kicking and screaming all the way into the 20th century," Lulu giggled as she ran up the steps to her apartment. Lulu told herself that she could check another item off her list. She wrote and mailed that letter to Claire. She wished she could be around to see all the excitement when the Thorntons read it. Lulu opened the door and stepped into her apartment. She didn't bother digging out her key, because people didn't lock their doors in Chester. There was no reason for security in this burg. Lulu tossed her bag to the floor like she always did, and slammed the door to make sure it latched. That was the last thing Lulu did before the hand clamped the handkerchief over her face. Lulu's guitar hit a sour note as her bare feet struck the strings in her struggle to break free from the muscular arms that had seized her. The instrument made an odd musical sound as it tumbled to the floor from where she had set it up against the wall. The chloroform rushed up her nostrils, down into her lungs, through her bloodstream, and hit her brain. In her unconscious state, Lulu Jefferson was unable to enjoy the trip on which the hottest recreational drug, all the rage in California, took her. Chapter 1. Summer 2004. "Smile and say good morning," Beth Davis ordered the reflection in her compact's mirror when the bell over the front door signaled her first pharmacy customer of the morning. The grind of working for a living put a crimp in her nightlife. The druggist flexed the muscles in her cheeks to curl the corners of her lips into a smile. On the corner of Carolina Avenue and 5th Street in the heart of town, Chester Drug Store had been owned and operated by the Martin family since 1960. Since the closing of the steel mills in the early 80s created an exodus of each new generation to the surrounding cities of Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and even Washington, D.C., in the fight for financial survival, business ownership in the valley was in a state of constant turnover. The 1990 census indicated that senior citizens were a majority in the small town, but the 2000 census showed that the tide was shifting. Young families were moving into town to seek sanctuary from the very forces Chester's eager younger generation was pursuing in the metropolis. Another sign of life returning to Chester was evident in the landscape. Housing developments dotted the countryside where farms used to lie. An imaginative real estate contractor even managed to squeeze a townhouse development in place of some long-abandoned railroad tracks behind Martin's drugstore. Beth Davis had just finished her 6th mug of coffee and put on her white pharmacist's smock when Joshua Thornton and his 16-year-old son Murphy came in and made their way down the center aisle to the pharmacy counter at the back of the store. Beth kept her back to them while she transformed her mood from sulky to perky. Joshua tapped his knuckles on the counter. "Excuse me." Beth snapped the compact shut and turned around. When her sleep-filled eyes met Joshua's clear blue ones, she shrieked. The formal naval officer, trained always to look perfect, had on the same rumpled clothes he had worn the previous day, and had slept in on a filthy hardwood floor. The day's growth of beard was evidence that he couldn't find his shaving kit. Despite his unkempt appearance, Joshua Thornton was still as handsome as he was the day he graduated as valedictorian from Oak Glen High School. There were a couple of crow's feet in the corners of his blue eyes, and strands of gray hair at his temples, but he still had the same finely chiseled features that made Beth's heart skip a beat when he had first invited her to go with him for an ice cream cone. It took a moment for Joshua to see the cause for the pharmacist's startled reaction.